Today was not the most exciting day out there with Amazon making new all-time highs because in 48 hours, we have the potential for a major stock market shift. Now, we start off this morning in pre-market before the opening bell. OpenAI signs a $38 billion compute deal with Amazon partner with cloud leader for the first time. We look at Amazon stock and we can see Amazon stock gapped up, and not only gapped up, went a little bit higher, but then look at where we closed in the range of that candle. Did we close at the upper portion? Absolutely not. Now, we do have a large gap right below us from today, but then we have another very large gap. Now, it wasn't just Amazon that benefited off that news this morning. We also saw NVIDIA with a gap up today as well. NVIDIA gapping up once that news was released. So today it was all about AI. If we come over and look at the SPY real quick, the SPY today was up 0.19%, but then we come over and look at the RSP, the equal weight S&P 500, and it was actually down 0.27%. Along with, we still have the fear and greed index over in the fear territory. Now, at one point today, I did see this over at 50%, right in the middle of neutral. However, it did ended up backing off just a bit. Also, when we come over and look at how the indices fared across the board, the Dow was down 226 points. The NASDAQ was up 109 points. S&P 500 up 11 points, with the Russell 2000 being down 0.79. So we had half the indices up, half of the indices down. However, come over and look at advanced issues versus declining. We had 62.1% of issues declining on the day. So we had more stocks going down than we had going up. To me, that is not signaling ultra bullish. Then we come over and look at the sectors across the board. Consumer cyclicals, by far, were outpacing everything else. And the laggard out there was basic materials. Now, after the bell, it's going to be very important out here because come over and look at what we have. We have a lot of earnings coming out. We have Palantir, Hims, Hers, and we look at the big expected mover. Palantir expected to move plus or minus 10%. So we look right over here. What do we think is taking place? Well, we see Palantir rocketing on the way up. Just one heck of a rocket ship. We come over and put this on the daily chart. You can see here was the all-time high. The blue line right now represents where we are after hours, which is pushing Palantir to another new all-time high. However, when we come over and look at this article right here, Trump suggests the stock market may fall if the Supreme Court throws out his tariffs. Is he right? Now, Trump says essentially the stock market is making new all-time highs. Everyone's 401k is all thanks in part to the tariffs. However, when we look at this article right here, this is going to be two sides of the coin. Supreme Court won't stop Trump's tariff deal. Now, I think this is really funny. If you look at the summary, look at here, look at the last line right there. Tariffs strain corporate profits, risk inflation increase. So who is right? Is it this article saying the tariffs are straining corporate profits? Or is Trump right saying that because of his tariffs, that is why the stock market is at new all-time highs? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Now, when we come back over real quick, we take a look at Amazon. Amazon was one heck of a rocket ship up this morning, but I want to bring something to your attention. Is it really surprising that we had a hard time pushing up even higher from that point on? Because if we come over and look at the options data real quick, notice where we had a lot of gamma exposure right here at that 250 strike price. And if we come over and look, notice we barely closed right above it. The market's having a one heck of a time really pushing through all that resistance up above us. Now, if we come over and look at the volatility index, it basically did a 180 today. Early on, we saw the VIX rocketing up, VIX making it all the way up to 18.83. But then if we look at the closing price, the VIX actually closed down 0.26. Now, all the fear just basically said, uh-oh, let's go ahead and run. There's nothing to worry about. Come on in, guys. The water is warm. Now, we come over and look at the SPY real quick. Notice today they tried to push it down and they ran it right back up, kind of forming a hammerish looking candle. And it really looks like the market's trying to push and potentially make another new all-time high. Now, if we come over and look at the 4-hour chart, MACD indicator is crossed to the downside, and we still have this large gaping gap below us, which would fill right around the 50% Fibonacci retracement. Then we have the 61.8 level down here at about 673.45. Now, when we dive down, start looking at the 30-minute volume profiles, notice we basically have a D-shaped profile, a little bit wider range that I like to see normally with a D-shaped profile. But, we spent a good portion of today just simply chopping around. Now, if we come over and look at the futures markets real quick, what do we got going on? Well, in the 4-hour chart, notice we have a wick. Every time we get down this area, the market, the buyers basically step in and rip it right back up. We still have this unfilled gap right down here about 68.25. And let's not forget the rule behind this untested value area high. It should have been filled either last week or this week, and that's going to be about 67.85. along with a weekly untested point of control at 67.74. Now, when we come over and look at the daily profiles, let's take a look at what we have going on over here. We can see we're closing right roughly in the middle of the range. We have that same D-shaped profile out here. Now, normally with a D-shaped profile, we expect range expansion the next day, but something else we want to be very cautious of with a D-shaped profile, whichever way we first break, quite often that ends up being nothing more than a trap. So tonight and tomorrow, if you see us breaking above 68.90, we got to be a little bit suspect. Could the market be getting ready to get smacked right back down? Because if we come right over here and we look at some of this option data real quick and look at all the gamma exposure above us, we have a ton of it. Now, if we look, we have put support down here at 6,700. We have call resistance at about 7,000. Now, 7,000 is substantially higher than where we're currently at, but you can see all the gamma exposure right up in this area. So I don't think it's going to be just a quick flush above it. But if we do start getting above these clusters, look at the next cluster right up in here, 71.35 to about 71.75. So I want to be very cautious. If we start breaking value area high, I want to see what occurs as we approach the highs from today. Do we get smacked back down? Do we see the presence of sellers once again? Or can we push up and above that price point? If we can, then it really looks like we're going to try to push towards that 7,000 price point, which will put us at another new all-time high. Now, I want to let you guys know right now, My Fun and Futures, you can get started for only $59 with a 50K Core Flex add-on plan. Take advantage of this offer. Use the link in the description box down below. Use promo code Mike at checkout. Now, we come over and look at the QQQs real quick. We look at the Qs real quick. Notice the Qs made it higher than Friday's high. However, we're closing roughly in the middle-ish of the range, maybe a little bit less than the middle of the range. And we have all-time highs right over here to the left. We are not that far away from it. Now, if you notice, we still have all these gaps down below us, which does not mean they necessarily have to get filled right here, right now. Just something I'm most certainly keeping an eye on. On the 4-hour chart, what do we got going on? Well, MACD indicator is kind of flattened out here just a bit. And if we do start to roll over, this is going to get very, very interesting. If we pull a fib from the swing low right up here to all-time highs, and if we do make another new all-time high tomorrow or sometime this week, we'll have to readjust those fib retracement levels. But notice the 38% retracements right down here, about 618.74, and we have a high volume note on the profile just below that price point. And if you look, that would be enough to fill this major gap that we have right up in here. However, if we start breaking below that, that's when I want to look to target between the 50 and 61.8 level. And we have a nice gap that could potentially get filled at 610.64. Now, we come over and look at the futures markets. Now, we look at this on the 4-hour chart. Doesn't this kind of look like a bull flag pattern? Now, is it going to end up being a busted pattern or not? Patterns get busted all the time. Now, notice this morning, we were able to spike just barely above last week's value area high. Then the market yanked down. I said, watch out, first target, 26,070.25. We made it right down there. We did not get the full rotation down. And at this point in time, we are still below that value area high. So I want to give the edge to the bears on that time frame. However, if we come over and we start looking at the daily profile, you see we built a lot of volume for today right around this area. We had a lot of chopping just back and forth, back and forth. And tomorrow, it's going to be important to me. Do we start getting above 26,154.25? If so, let's see if we can come right back up here and kind of re-challenge anywhere from the candle body right up here to the candle high. And that's going to be a price point of 26,235 up here, 26,265. Now, in the event that we just simply stay below value area high, I want to look to target the point of control, 26,097. I want to look to target value area low, 26,070.25. Then anything below that price point, I really want to turn my attentions back over here to the 4-hour chart and say, all right, can we make it down here towards gap support, potentially fill in the gap and even that untested value area high? Now, if the Supreme Court does not rule in Trump's favor coming up on Wednesday, watch out. We could see stocks take a quick nosedive down, or maybe they'll surprise us, and that'll be the catalyst to see us make new all-time highs. Now, come on, look at the dollar index. Dollar index pushing up once again. This is 1, 2, 3, 4 consecutive days up in a row. We even look at the 10-year yield. 10-year yield, kind of a doji-ish looking candle. However, we come over and look at gold. Gold today, a small update, but we do have a wick on top of that candle and a wick on the bottom, kind of a spinning top-ish type of candle. We look at gold on the 4-hour chart and we see we've had that push from that double top and we're spending a heck of a lot of time down and around these areas. Notice the MACD indicator. Where's it at? Right near the zero line. Could this be nothing more than a recharge point for another leg lower in this market? Now, if you guys like to learn about My Fund and Future's latest payout policy update, make sure to watch this next video right here.